Hello, welcome back to The Road to Episode 8, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi on the 13th of December 2017, and for the rest of the world, the 15th of December 2017. And in this video I'm going to be talking about mainly the Obi-Wan movie that has kind of been confirmed to be in development from LucasFilm. A few other bits and pieces I can kind of throw in there as far as Episode 8 news goes, very, very minor things, but nonetheless, the evil BB-8. People are talking about it. It's going to be in the movie, and people are kind of pissed off that they're doing this kind of, evil clone kind of idea. Rian Johnson kind of defended it a little bit on Twitter and was like, well, it's supposed to have fun with the Star Wars movie at the same time, So I'm not too bothered by why wouldn't they have it the same model in a black finish for the First Order? It's what bad guys do. They make things in black. Like it's kind of just. I don't see the big deal. It is what it is. So that's my thoughts on the evil BB-8 controversy. And also in the conference I was talking about in the last video where Rian Johnson, the director, was in Tokyo, he revealed that his friend and frequent collaborator Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was in his first film Brick, in Looper, and I think had an uncredited kind of cameo in the other film that he made, will have a role in The Last Jedi, a voice role. So nothing big, nothing spectacular, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt is kind of going to be in Star Wars, which is pretty cool. That's all the Episode 8 stuff I got really for this one, but the road to Episode 8 is filled with the ongoing expansion of Star Wars and Lucasfilm and so on. So, the Obi-Wan movie. People have been talking about this Obi-Wan movie since before even I think Disney bought Lucasfilm, and there was even the germ of an idea that we'd see more Star Wars movies. Like, wow, they could do like a, have Ewan McGregor and do that. I remember people talking about it in school years ago, when I was a kid, when the prequels were coming out or the last film was about to come out, that kind of stuff. Actually, I was out of school by the time the third. I guess being in college, people were talking about it, actually. It's always been in circulation in the rumour mill, so to speak, and Ewan McGregor's been very open, saying that he would love to come back and do it, and I think that most people can agree that one of the best things about the prequels was Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi, specifically in Episode 3 and 2 to some degree, and maybe not Episode 1, but he was a real shining kind of light in those films as far as a quality performance goes, that even shined through some of the bad writing, I suppose. And the idea of seeing him return to that role and play kind of the middle section. I mean, he kind of played the beginning of Obi-Wan, and Alec Guinness played the end of Obi-Wan. And there's about 20 years there in the middle where, I mean, we can assume that Obi-Wan was hanging around on Tatooine, but it's within the realms of possibility that he would take off for a couple of weeks and go off on another wild adventure. Who knows? I mean, that's the thing that I'm wondering is what kind of story would this be? With the Han Solo movie they're developing, they're almost finished shooting and making with the new director Ron Howard, but I can see where that could go. There's lots to play with a young Han Solo, getting into hijinks, going on missions, getting into trouble, smuggling things, there's all sorts of ideas you could run with that. To do an Obi-Wan movie set between Episode 3 and 4, there's not much kind of wiggle room for how an adventure would fit into where he is stationed on Tatooine watching over Luke. So to me, he would have to go outside the planet, he would have to go somewhere else, and it would be kind of a completely independent story that doesn't really have much of a, or if any, kind of effect on the overall story. And I would like that. I would like something that fits into the Star Wars timeline but isn't dependent on the Star Wars timeline to a point that Rogue One was, which is fine. But I think if you do that too much, you start kind of being chained to those original movies. So something that doesn't have much consequence to Episode 4, I think would be perfect. Now, where do you set it? Is it just after Revenge of the Sith? Is it just before? I mean, if you do it just before New Hope, then you have a much older Obi-Wan, and I'm not sure if they should really go that far. Somewhere in the middle. Maybe they could do some kind of, telling a story over many years and seeing this progression of this character, the aging of this character. And I had a thought in my head that it would be cool. I mean, I just said not to chain it to the original movies, but I had a cool idea for the ending where you could do a CGI Alec Guinness for just one shot at the end, not even a line, and you just see him sat outside his hut. The sun is setting, and he looks over, and it's the twin suns, and then you hear that familiar music, and it's basically kind of the Back to the Future Part 2 idea where you're seeing this iconic scene from another perspective, knowing that that next morning he was going to see Luke again, and that's where the whole adventure would start picking up again for Obi-Wan. I think it'd be really cool just to have that John Williams score coming in, him looking out at the twin sunset, and you know that just over that bridge somewhere is Luke looking out to that twin sunset, and then we end the movie, and it's a nice kind of transition to the next step in Obi-Wan's story. Again, I'm kind of going against what I said, I'm being a hypocrite, but I mean the main plot. I mean, it has to be some sort of adventure, it has to have some fun, it has to have some action, and I think that would be really cool to see. Basing it purely on Tatooine, I just don't know where the meat of the story would be. I mean, you could do it, I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm just really intrigued as to how they would tackle this film as a movie. And I feel the same way about a Yoda movie. Like, I don't know, I mean, there's a lot more you could do with that. I mean, you've got like 900 years to play with, you could set it in any timeline and there's lots you could do, but I really can't envision how this Obi-Wan movie would pan out unless it is this adventure that he goes on, or a mission that he goes on, something like that. So, yeah, anyway. Because, I mean, by the time you get to episode 4, he's very much seen as this hermit who hasn't been heard from in years, Old man out in the dunes, you know what I mean? So, but then again, maybe, he was going off and gallivanting and, falling in love and maybe, having a kid with a woman who turns out to be the grandmother of a certain Rey. No? Okay, the Kenobi theory is interesting, but I definitely would not want to see that kind of shoehorned into the story. Anyway, I'll leave it there. What are your thoughts on an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie? Yeah, I mean, just the idea of seeing Ewan McGregor step back into those shoes and that robe and that character is really appealing to me. But, I can't see them doing a kind of Logan-esque kind of story, because it wouldn't feel right to have a Star Wars movie that doesn't have explosions and action and adventure, So I think maybe just in between both timelines, not timelines, both 3 and 4, 10 years, spaced out between the two films. Obi-Wan's older, but he's not older, you know what I mean? That makes sense. Just using the same word to describe a different meaning. But yeah, he's older, but he's not older, So I think that would work perfectly. Ewan McGregor's at the perfect age to do that kind of thing now. And he seemed to really nail that kind of progressive arc. Well, not arc, but the progressive aging of Obi-Wan, And I guess that's also down to the makeup department and so on. But just, I really like the way Obi-Wan evolved over episode 1, 2, and 3. It felt like such a natural progression to episode 4, and I feel like they could only serve to make that even more smoother, which would be really cool. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.